Welcome to Demystify Magic with Molly and Madison.
I'm Molly, a former skeptic, now full-time energy healer, author, and your resident science meets spirit nerd.
And I'm Madison, a born and raised witch, teacher of the craft, and owner of not one, not two, but 3 metaphysical businesses.
Together we dig into low-effort witchcraft, spirituality, and the science that backs that all up, all with humor, heart, and a sprinkle of chaos.
So whether you're a curious skeptic or a seasoned witch, find a cozy spot, take a deep breath, and let's demystify some magic.
Howdy doody, friends.
Howdy doody.
I hope you're prepared for a deep dive, because diving deep we did.
I can't wait for this. Molly's being very generous when she says we dive deep. I think this is going to be a really even exchange. So from what I've seen, the stack of papers I've seen, this is a really equal trade-off from me getting to do story time for the 8-part Sabbath series. Molly's taken the lead on the research for this episode. And I think that she might have more sitting in front of her right now than I did for our 2-day video podcast.
The outline is 4,000 words.
So let's get to it. Tell me what we're talking about today.
We're talking about Gerald Gardner. We're talking about who he is, his history. We're talking about Wicca in general, its origins. And we're talking about some Wiccan laws. You may have heard of them, like mayhaps you've heard of the Law of Return or the Threefold Law. We're talking about all that, the good, the bad, the ugly, and how it affects our modern witchy perspective of this practice.
I'm very excited because I have very limited knowledge of Wicca. I know obviously that it exists, but I don't know a lot of people who follow that line of belief. But I do know that there are a lot of things that are a part of Wicca that then get kind of like tossed in. It's like the Band-Aid effect, right? Of like all the bandages are called Band-Aids now, but
yeah.
So now all the witchcraft is called Wicca, or all the Wicca is called witchcraft, and they're not always the same thing. So I'm excited.
Fully not the same thing. I had so much fun doing the research on this. Like every time I wanted to stop, I was like, wait, what? There are definitely some anecdotes in here that I hope they rock your socks off, because they certainly rocked mine. But before we dive into this massive outline, Madison, what was your magic moment of the week?
I have a really silly one. So since we got Percy, I have been going to my mom's house at least once a week, which is great because she recently moved kind of like out into the middle of nowhere. And if we're not like working on something, I don't always have a reason to make the drive. And now I have this puppy that needs so much exercise. And so she has 3 Australian Shepherds. So I take Percy and he gets to play with his best friends and I get to hang out with my mom, and it's great. It's a good old time. I went the other day and I was maybe not feeling great, having a little bit of what some might call a MTB. And I went to my mom's house, as one does when they're, going through it. And I got to my mom's and I was like, she's like, how are you? And I was like, I'm okay. And just like whatever, unloaded. And everything's fine. It's just like my nervous system being dysregulated. 'Tis the season. But she was like, I know what will make you feel better. And she gave me a Yuletide Christmas gift early.
Aww.
And I sent you a picture of this, I believe. But imagine if they somehow made, do you remember the Snuggie from back in the day?
Oh, do I remember the Snuggie?
Imagine if they made a Snuggie better.
Was it heated?
No.
Oh.
But it has 3 distinct pockets. And I'm sending you a picture of it right now.
Oh, okay.
It has a hood, which I don't think the original Snuggie had.
No, the original Snuggie was open in the back. Oh, wait, I have one of these. I have 2 of these, actually.
Well, my mom got me one for Christmas.
Percy will fit in that pocket.
I tried.
You have to seam stitch. You have to rip the stitches out the top.
So that's a really great point, and I will maybe do that once he's a little bit less wiggly. But she got me the perfect Snuggie, and I felt like when you put a dog in a thunder jacket. I was immediately calmed. My nervous system was immediately brought back into symbiosis.
It's basically, for folks who can't see the photo, it is...
I'll post it on our Instagram.
It is a very fluffy picture, like the softest blanket you could find at like Marshall's, TJ Maxx, those really soft, thick blankets, in a hoodie that is floor length with an oversized hood.
And the best part of the whole thing is that for some reason it comes with a tie. Just in case you want to make sure everybody still knows that you have a womanly figure. Like, you can cinch it at the waist.
That. Mine didn't come with a tie.
Oh, mine cinches at the waist. Thank
she got the
God.
upgraded version. Damn.
It's just so everybody knows that I've still got TNA under there.
Shocked you're not wearing it right now.
I know, it's too hot. I have to just wear a regular hoodie for my AC situation.
Can't relate.
I know.
I'm sitting in a Hotel Diablo robe right now, and
I am so jealous of your atmosphere right now. I would love for it to be chilly outside. It is a crisp 71 this morning.
We're getting plowable levels of snow tomorrow, right before Christmas. So I'm dreaming.
I know. Me
of a
too.
white Christmas.
Molly and I did sit down to start planning my trip to Maine in 2026. And she was like, "What season do you want?" And I was like, "I want it to be cold."
She doesn't, folks. She does not want it to be Maine cold. She wants it to be Florida cold. I suggested
so I'm
May.
coming in May. She was like, "You'll think it's too cold if you come in May." And I was like, booked, signed, sealed, delivered. Sign me up. I want to bitch about the cold. I'm sick of bitching about the heat, It's like you got to pick your hard, and I want a change of bitching.
Yeah. I've stopped bitching about the cold since I met you.
Yeah.
I truly have. I don't think I've complained about the cold once this year.
I'm so glad I could do that for you. Okay, what was your magic moment this week?
My magic moment is I have a new hobby. As of 2 days ago, I have started crocheting, and I cannot stop.
It's so fun.
It's so fun. I bought on sale, like an impulse buy, I was up too late scrolling and decided to buy a bunch of packs of Woobles, which are like a beginner's crochet kit. And I was expecting, the Woobles kit to be kind of like, okay, you learn how to make Woobles, like by crochet, but you don't learn how to crochet. No, they actually teach you how to fucking crochet. Like, I can read a pattern now. I made one.
Look at you.
I know. I made one, and I had to follow the videos like over and over and over. He's a little bit wonky, but that's what we love about him. I'll tell you, they did say the magic loop was very hard to do, and I did it right on the first try. So
proud of you.
That was a big confidence booster. But I've done 3 now, and my third one, I didn't have to watch any of the tutorial videos. I just read the pattern and made it. And I feel so fucking confident. So confident that I texted Madison this morning, and I was like, it is the 22nd of December. Should I go buy a skein of yarn to crochet everyone Christmas ornaments before Christmas Eve?
And that's how I know that we're the same kind of person, because I was like, if there's ever a time to overcommit, it's Christmas. You should see my handmade gift spreadsheet.
Yeah.
It is not good. It is not good for the 22nd of December.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to make little star ornaments, because I want to do them as name tags for the dinner table, because we're hosting for the first time ever. So I want
Which is cute.
I want to do little star ornaments and then embroider everyone's initial on them, which I know how to do thanks to Woobles. And I just think it would be cute and fun. And it's like teaching me the basics of the granny square, which is what I want to learn next anyway. So I found a YouTube tutorial. I feel very confident about it. We'll see.
I think you can do it.
I think so too.
Where I've gone wrong with crochet in the past is that I learn how to do one stitch and then I buy a pattern for a blanket.
Yeah.
And so you have inspired me to maybe try out a small project, because I have like 3 abandoned blankets that I've made it like far enough through that like it's a project, but then I fucked it up. And then I've lost all desire to keep going.
See, I am not sponsored by Woobles yet. I will be sliding into their DMs imminently.
But we are open to talk, Woobles.
That's the thing I like about them is like, I feel like when I tried knitting as a teen and even as an adult, I just hated it because all I learned how to do were scarves. And I was like, I don't want 700 fucking scarves. But now I have all these little guys. I have all these little guys on my desk.
Making a trinket is like a game changer.
And I'm like, okay, my next one, I'm going to put crystals in it, or I'm going to make it like a spelled object and like put like a sachet of herbs or something in it. Or like I'll do Reiki while I'm crocheting, you know, like it's very like witchy adjacent.
Yeah.
But it's also, the woobles teach you different stitches. So it's like I got really good at the single stitch, and then it taught me the increased stitch, and then it taught me the decreased stitch. And now I'm doing like half double crochets and double crochets and whip stitches, and like like I know all the terminology now. So when I looked up the ornament pattern, I was like, oh, I know how to do that. I know each of these stitches. And it taught me how to read a fucking pattern, and it teaches you how to start the project. So you basically, I have a little ghosty that I made. And so now I can go buy yarn and just make another ghosty. I don't have to pay woobles again, which I did not expect from them. I expected it to be like, in order to make this wooble, you have to buy the wooble kit again. But that's not like, they're literally in the business of like teaching you the skill of crochet, which I was just like very impressed with.
That's really cool. Because I see them all the time, and I have thought about it, and then I'll go, no, like you know. You have 18 begun blankets at home that you could just fucking crochet those.
Yeah, no.
So maybe I'll give it a try to like get myself back into it, because I miss those kinds of hobbies. I used to love to cross stitch too. I have such a firm memory of being in college and spending like 3 straight days cross stitching while listening to Michelle Obama's book Becoming. And it's such a positive memory that I'm like, I should fucking do that. I should put on an audiobook and cross stitch again.
Yeah. I'm not in a place where I feel like I can just like listen to an audiobook and crochet. But there are definitely parts where, like when I was making my ghosty, probably for half of it, I was able to like passively listen to something while I was making it. So I feel like I'm almost there. Like, very close to being there.
Well, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. On my bingo board next year is going to be crochet a sweater. So we'll see if I do it.
Can't wait.
I know. Everyone's getting little guys for Christmas next year.
I thought you were going to say everyone's getting sweaters. And I was like, hell yeah, sign me up.
All right. You want to talk about Gigi?
Yeah, I'm really excited. Everybody, we talked about Gerald Gardner a little bit on our Samhain episode, and the consensus was overwhelming that we wanted to talk more about him. So I'm excited. Yes. I have tried to do minimal, because you know whenever you talk about something and then your algorithm is like feeding it to you. I've scrolled past other people's opinions on Gerald Gardner, so you could be my first story time.
Hey, okay. Here's the rundown of how we're going to approach this. So we're going to talk about who Gerald Gardner is. We're going to specifically look at the timeline of how Gerald Gardner became like the modern, person who brought Wicca to the public.
Yeah, he's called the father of Wicca, right?
Yeah, yep. We're also going to talk about the historical context around this journey of Gerald Gardner, because I think that is often left out and I think is important to the conversation. We're going to talk about his impact and the criticism of Gerald Gardner, and then we're going to look at the Wiccan laws. And I specifically wanted to bring these in because we get asked a lot about them, specifically the Threefold Law, and I just thought that in the context of this conversation, it really helped me create my own stance on that law. And then we're going to tie it up by talking about like modern witchcraft. Where do we go from here? Okay, so strap in. Okay, strap in. All right, Gerald Gardner. He is known as the father of modern Wicca. I want to put this out here real quick and clear that not all witchcraft is Wicca.
Yeah.
And Wicca is not the determiner about whether or not something is witchcraft. Witchcraft existed before Wicca, and it exists in many different ways.
And Wicca is like a religion, correct? Yes. And witchcraft is not. I think that is. So that's a question that we get a lot, like at the store and stuff. People will come in and ask us about Wicca or, like kind of use the terms interchangeably. And so that's an important distinction that I make, especially like to people who don't really know anything about the spiritual space, of like, my practice is not at all a religion.
Yeah.
It's very different in that there's not rules to witchcraft, and there are rules in Wicca.
Yes, but there isn't like a central god in Wicca. So it does distinguish itself from other religions in that way. He is known for some of his books, Witchcraft Today, which came out in 1954, The Meaning of Witchcraft in 1959. These helped introduce Wicca to broad audiences. And yeah, so let's talk about how he got there. So, 1884, Gigi was born to a wealthy Liverpool family.
I'm so sorry. You calling him Gigi immediately makes me picture Gigi Hadid.
I started abbreviating him as Gigi in my notes, and now I just refer to him as Gigi. He had chronic asthma. This is an important point, and he spent much of his youth traveling abroad. In 1930s, this is where the lore of Gerald Gardner really gets interesting for me.
So not until he's like 50.
Yeah. Okay. Get this. So as he returns to England, Gardner is ill. He has this illness that will not go away. He thinks it's the climate. He goes to this doctor, Dr. Edward A. Gregg, who prescribes him nudism to cure his ailment.
Can I just say, okay, I think about this a lot. Because I understand that the past is like, we glorify the past, whatever, you know, like there is no good old days, right? But if I could choose one thing to take from the past, it's being prescribed time by the sea, you know, like being prescribed nudism. That is the Make America Great Again that I want to see. Like, fucking prescribe me something obscene.
And you might think, Molly, this seems like a relevant anecdote. It's not. It is foundational to Wicca. We'll get there. So,
not foundational.
Upon the advice of this doctor, he joins a nudist camp and he fell in love with it, later claiming nudism cured his ailment. This is where our story starts.
And who are we to say it didn't?
Yeah.
So, you know what? Maybe that is what heals all.
Yes. Okay, so through the nudist scene, he meets Dion Bingham, who is a pagan-leaning naturist and a member of the Order of Woodcraft Chivalry. And this person followed a path known as Dionysianism, which is a celebration of nature and sensuality. And this really inspired Gardner from here. 1939, Gardner took his wife to a local theater production based on the life of Pythagoras.
Wait, I have questions.
Yeah, okay.
Was he married when he was prescribed nudism?
I don't know. I didn't get into his personal life.
Well, that's okay. Well, I want to know. Because imagine, because he's like 50 at the time that he's prescribed nudism. Yeah. Imagine your husband comes home from his doctor's appointment and is like, we have to join a nudist camp. Because I have a cough that won't go away or something. Not to downplay his illness. Not to downplay. I don't know what it was. But imagine you're like, oh, finally, like we're going to get some relief from this thing. And he's like, okay, pack your bags or don't. We're not taking any clothes.
Yeah, I didn't look into like his personal life outside of like the things that influence Wicca. So
our next episode is me telling Gerald Gardner's love story.
Oh, so they go to this local theater production. His wife was an amateur thespian herself. She hated it. She thought it was terrible. Gardner, however, intrigued so much that he joined this order, this fellowship, which I'm going to butcher the name of. It's the Rosicrucian Order Crotona Fellowship, which is the group behind the play. And they were based at a local ashram and practiced a blend of Rosicrucianism, Theosophy, Freemasonry, and all these other like mystical practices. The same year, the fellowship, 1939, issued a bold letter predicting that there would be no war. Britain declared war on Germany the next day.
Oh.
Yeah, rough.
That's tough. You can't win them all.
Gardner was not impressed. But he stayed close with some of the members that he met there. Okay.
That is so fucking funny.
Are you ready for the night that changed everything?
Of course.
September 1939. This inner circle that he met through this fellowship took Gardner to the home of Old Dorothy Clutterbuck, which the name alone.
Love her.
Yeah.
Love her.
She would be crocheting woobles if she were around today.
For sure.
She was a wealthy woman in the New Forest, and there he was asked to strip naked and undergo a ritual initiation.
What I would not give, I'm just like, this is my truth. What I would not give to go back in time just for a day to be at like one of those kinds of rituals, because you know it got weird as fuck.
Just wait. Please hold your commentary.
I'm sorry. I can't help myself.
During the ceremony, he heard the terms Wicca with an A, which is the male form, and Wiccy with an E for female, which he recognized as Old English for witch. Gardner believed he had discovered a surviving witch cult, a view heavily influenced by Margaret Murray's now discredited theory of a secret pagan religion continuing under the guise of witchcraft. Here's where it gets hilarious. Here's where you can comment. It was later found that Clutterbuck was indeed a real woman in the New Forest area, but records show she was a devout Christian socialite. She was not a secret witch coven leader. There is no evidence of her involvement in witchcraft. So either Gigi misinterpreted whatever was happening as a pagan coven or fabricated her role entirely, which will be a theme going forward.
Yeah. So either the Christians were stripping naked or Gigi's a lying liar. Also, not you telling me when I can and can't commentate on a podcast.
I'm sorry.
I will not be listening.
I just didn't want you to dig yourself into a hole that I was going to have to pull you out of.
No, I've decided that I love her. I love her either way. That name alone is enough. It really doesn't take much with me, I guess.
1940. Operation Cone of Power is what we're calling this moment in time. Gardner later claimed that the New Forest Coven held a ritual in the forest to raise a cone of power aimed at Hitler, chanting, "You cannot cross the sea," to stop a German invasion. The magical defense of Britain was, to Gardner, evidence of witchcraft's continuing relevance.
So he was anti-Hitler, correct?
Right.
Okay, well, at least there's one positive.
We've got that going for him.
You know, the more things change, the more they stay the same. You know, we are still just a bunch of witches trying to hex a dictator.
1945, he goes back to nudism. He purchased land in 4 acres.
Thank God.
This is a nudist colony near Bricket Wood. He used it not only for sunbathing, but as a base for magical experimentation. He felt nudity amplified magical energy, a belief that would carry directly into Wiccan ritual as sky-clad practices.
You know, I'm going to say something that maybe I shouldn't say and that I'm not proud of.
Okay.
But if a woman told me that being nude amplified my magical powers, I would listen to her and I would believe her.
Oh, babe, trust me. We're going there.
But that is so creepy.
It gets worse.
I don't doubt it at all. All of this, like the few things that I do know about Gerald Gardner, none of them are good. I know we're not going to a good place. But I can't help but be like, if it was Geraldine.
Yeah, right?
I'd be like, hell yeah, go to the nudist colony. Tell me that my magic works better when I'm naked. Like, hell yeah, sister. But if a man is going to, especially because witchcraft, and I guess maybe it isn't like that in the early 1900s just because men dominate everything. But the way that I see witchcraft now as like such a female-dominated sport, for lack of a better word. And I stand by that.
And you're not wrong.
You know what? I said it and I stand by it.
10 toes down. Not one toe missing.
The image of a man telling all of the women that I see in my community, oh, your magic works better when you're naked and we're all going to get in the woods and get naked and do magic. I'm like, ugh, rot in a hole.
Okay, we're in 1946 now. He joins the Folklore Society, was elected to its council, and gave a talk titled Art, Magic, and Talismans. But the academic crowd, including Catherine Briggs, were quite dismissive, questioning Gardner's ideas and skeptical of his dubious academic credentials, including unverifiable PhDs. So, over Gardner's career, he falsely claimed a bunch of academic credentials to gain legitimacy, including in 1951, a newspaper interview, he claimed to have doctoral degrees, including a PhD from Singapore and a Doctor of Literature from Toulouse. There was no record of these degrees existing, and the University of Singapore didn't even exist at that time.
Oh my God.
It didn't exist until 1980.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Also, how were these people traveling so much?
Yeah, dude, I don't know. Well, he was wealthy. He was born wealthy.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, privilege.
Somebody send me to the University of Singapore. I'll get a real PhD. I won't, but I'll think about it.
1947, Gardner was introduced to Aleister Crowley by a mutual friend shortly before Crowley's death. Allegedly, Crowley elevated Gardner to a degree within the Ordo Templi Orientis, the OTO, and authorized him to sign others. The charter, notably, was written in Gardner's own handwriting, only signed by Crowley. Later, it was found that Gigi exaggerated his own Masonic and academic titles to impress Crowley, a theme.
Yeah.
Crowley's diaries showed that not a fan of Gigi, and in fact, he did not gain formal initiation.
Well, from what I know about Aleister Crowley, they would have been two peas in a pod. I'm surprised he didn't like him.
Okay, 1951. We have the repeal of Britain's Witchcraft Act, which we'll talk about in a moment.
I'm sorry. Could you tell me the year he was born again?
1884.
1884. This is an old man, an old nudist man. Sorry, I just am trying to picture him in my mind. So 1884.
Yeah, so he would have been 67.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, you're the age of your high school science teacher.
Yeah, not someone I want to see nude.
Nope, not at all. So he partnered with this person, Cecil Williamson, to open the Folklore Center of Superstition and Witchcraft on the Isle of Man. Gardner and his wife moved there, where he acted as the resident witch and publicly declared to the press, "Of course I'm a witch, and I get great fun out of it." Which, this was controversial at the time. This is one of the things that we can give Gardner some semblance of flowers for, because he did openly declare himself a witch, and in doing so begin the destigmatization of witchcraft that is foundational to, where we're at today, right? We would not have a podcast called Demystify Magic if witchcraft was still as stigmatized as it was in the 1950s. So
for sure,
we'll give him 1 star.
Yeah, that's the thing that's so hard. It's the ultimate don't meet your heroes. Not that Gerald Gardner was ever my hero, but you know what I mean. It's people who were so important. It's the same as Aleister Crowley.
Which we could do a whole episode on, by the way.
Yeah,
maybe
we could as well.
Should we? Let us know.
Probably. Let us know. People who were so foundational. You just can't argue that so much of what we have right now is due to people like that. And it really is a practice in getting comfortable with two things can be true.
Yeah.
Holding that dichotomy of really terrible people also made some positive contributions to our community, and that sucks. Yeah. Or we're at least a part of its forward momentum.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's why I enjoyed doing the research for this episode so much, because it was this constant back and forth of oh, he did this, great. Oh, he did that, bad. Oh, he did this, great. Oh, he did that, bad.
I think it's important to see that there are people who can be bad and also be in like this really small tight-knit community with you. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that it, in a weird way, it reminds me of politics in that, like, you hear this label on someone and you think, oh, they agree with me, so I must really like and get along with this person. I must enjoy, like, I that immediate almost trust.
Yeah.
And not to say that you should like be untrusting of people who call themselves witches, but I think it's an important reminder of like, people are people no matter what their belief system is, and there are good and bad people in all sects of spirituality and all sects of belief, you know?
Yeah, there's so much nuance to Gerald Gardner, and I think like it just reminds us there's nuance in everyone. Okay, 1952. This is where Gardner meets Doreen Valiente. She soon requested initiation and would go on to play a major role in rewriting and shaping the rituals of Wicca, editing Gardner's Book of Shadows, toning down the Crowley influence. Doreen Valiente wasn't just his high priestess. She's the one who made them poetic, made them mystical, made them usable. Without her, Wicca might have just stayed like this ceremonial mess. But she also was critical of Gardner, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Queen, diva.
Okay, so I want to give some brief historical context to what is happening prior to this rise of Wicca and Gerald Gardner. So as we know, there were witch trials and executions. We're specifically going to talk about Britain because that's where he is. So from the 1500s to the early 1700s, Britain, especially in Scotland, saw waves of witch hunts. Under the laws like the Witchcraft Act of 1542, thousands were accused of witchcraft, and an estimated 500 to 1,000 people were executed, mostly women. There is this long-standing, like, confusion in popular culture that witches were burned. They were actually hanged, which... remember that for later, folks.
Sometimes it's interesting how much American culture really focuses on the Salem witch trials, because when you learn about the English witch trials, it is like such a small blip in time in comparison.
Yeah.
Like the Salem witch trials, obviously horrific, tragic, all those things, but also is nothing in comparison to what happened in Europe. It's so wild.
Yeah. I read a book earlier this year. I'm blanking on the name of it, but it's on my story graph if you follow me there. But actually, accusations of witchcraft were often used to dismantle females in power. And so the thing about witchcraft laws was the only way that they could be proven if someone was accused of witchcraft is by doing witchcraft. So a lot of times, like if a queen ascended to power, like say her husband passed away and she was in power, she would be accused of a witch to take her down because she could not defend herself. There was the only defense was by proving witchcraft to be what they were doing.
Yeah, you could only prove someone guilty. You couldn't prove someone innocent.
Yeah.
And I know something that they would do too is like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but you would like throw women into water.
Yes.
And it was like if they died, they were innocent.
Yeah. Yeah. They would like chain them to something really heavy, kind of like in Aladdin.
Which now I understand that reference. I'm so happy about that. It's just so wild to think about. Like, it incenses me.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about the witch trials is the trials often peaked during periods of religious tension and social unrest. So it was a way of bringing back control to the religious, like, norms, or quote unquote societal religious norms. So if the church was losing power, they would put a claim of witchcraft and then they would regain power because that fear and social unrest would bring people back to the church. So it was just fascinating. Like the whole history is interesting to me. The Witchcraft Act of 1735, rather than punishing actual sorcery, this law marked a turning point. It treated claims of magical power as fraud, not fact. So practicing or pretending to practice witchcraft, including fortune-telling or spirit contact mediumship, was punishable by fines and imprisonment. this reframing reflected that they're really moving away from the belief in literal magic. So if we can't hang them or execute them, then we'll just say they're, dubious, they're charlatans, they're liars, liar, pants on fires.
Not liar, pants on fire.
The last known execution for witchcraft in Britain was Janet Horne in Scotland in 1727. And by the 1800s, witchcraft prosecutions had faded, but the 1735 Act remained in effect to prosecute spiritualists and mediums. So the repeal happened in 1951. This is like where we see the rise of modern witchcraft. And that is where Gerald Gardner really steps in, right? So we had all of this history of executions and then, claiming they're frauds. And then it was repealed. And all of a sudden, Gerald Gardner comes in. They repealed the Witchcraft Act in 1951, but they replaced it with the Fraudulent Mediums Act, which targeted deliberate deception rather than the belief in magical practice itself.
Which that immediately makes me think of things like that are the reason why I have to have a fortune teller's license in the state of Florida. Mm-hmm. I have literally another form of ID where I have my photo taken and it says licensed fortune teller. And all they did was take my fingerprint and a photo of me, but I have to go down to the police station every year to renew it. And it's such a pain in the ass. They make it so hard and it's so funny. Nobody even at the police station. I'm sorry, do you see this?
Yeah,
as I'm talking, there's a cat licking my face. But even nobody at the police station really knows what to do with me when I go there. As I go and I walk in, I go, "Hi, I'd like to renew my fortune teller's license, please." And they go, "Huh?" And now at this point, I think they remember me because it's Anthony and I come every year. We're "Hi." But when we first went, they were like, "What do you mean?" But if I don't renew it and go down there and in person say, "Hi, excuse me, hello, still psychic, hi, nice to meet you," the city will come and yell at me. We got our business license put on pause. They wouldn't renew Spellcrafter's business license because we were late last year.
Oh my God.
It was a whole thing. And I thought that it's whatever. It was all bureaucratic nonsense, but it's bureaucratic nonsense that comes from shit like that.
Yeah, 100%.
And what pisses me off about that stuff is that really you can say anything is fraudulent when you're working with energy. I think about doing Reiki, right? Someone could come in and have a misunderstanding about what energy work is, and no matter what I explain it to them, whatever, if I don't cure their cancer, they could go to the state of Florida and say, this is a fraudulent person, just no matter what I do. Or if you don't like what I have to say to you, in a tarot reading, if I don't tell you that your ex is going to come back tomorrow, it puts people in a position of vulnerability, and it almost kind of feeds, it then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of people might feel like they have to fluff things up out of fear of being called a fraud.
Yeah.
And then you have to be super vague and you have to as a form of protecting yourself, you might feel this need to cloud what your intuition is telling you, because if you're wrong, someone could call the fucking cops.
Yeah. Yeah. It's modern day persecution of witches and witchcraft. And it's still it happens all over, right? It's
if you follow the Stitching Witch in Pennsylvania.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah. Their shop, the Serpent's Key it starts with an H, somewhere in Pennsylvania. If you listen to this podcast, you've probably seen them on TikTok. The cops came into the Serpent's Key and tried to say that they were doing illegal tarot card reading because it is illegal. It's Hanover, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, right. It's it's interesting because there is infrastructure in the law to create another witch hunt.
Yeah.
It's there.
And it's starting to happen there was a store, I believe in Orlando, that a church, I don't know if it was a church, but it was a group of religious people, tried to break into a metaphysical store.
What?
And we've started getting like weird mail. Like it is happening. Like people are, we got a fucking Christmas card. It pissed me off so bad.
Times of religious and social unrest.
Exactly.
That's when they peak.
We got a Christmas, we get a lot of religious pamphlets like left outside, which I think is so funny because it's like you could fully come in and hand it to me, but you're afraid. But whatever. We got a Christmas card with no return address, of course. Classic. Because they didn't want to hear back from me. But it was a Christmas card telling me how I needed to repent or I was going to hell.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know. It's frustrating because like I get a lot of very sweet mail from listeners at Spellcrafter. And so I walked in and there was a card and I was like, oh, yippee. Like somebody sent me something nice.
Oh, no.
I know. And so I told my mom about it and she was like, now I'm nervous when I pick up the mail at Hedgewitch because I'm like, is it going to be something mean? And I kind of feel the same way. Yeah. Where it's like, fuck you. If you've ever sent me something nice to Spellcrafter, thank you. I love you. We get a lot of like little nice cards and things and I really, really appreciate it. And it does make it a little bit easier when people say not nice things in the mail. Yeah. But it's like, it's that period of unrest where people, and you know what? I try to have empathy because I have to believe that those are people who think that they are doing a kind thing, right? Like I have to believe that they are genuinely concerned about my soul.
Yeah.
And that this is the only way that they know how to do it.
Well, they might just be concerned about their own soul because like some of the teachings of religion is that if you don't spread the word of this religion, you will go to hell, which I think is interesting.
For sure. And I have a lot of empathy for that too, of like, you're so afraid of me that you won't come in and have a conversation with me. You won't hand me a religious pamphlet in person. You will only send it in the mail with no return address. As if I'm going to show up to your house, you know, I would just send you a Happy Yule card and say, mind your own beeswax.
Oh, that's a fun form of
I know, right? Of malicious
resistance.
Compliance.
Yeah. Could be pen pals.
Right? We could just send things back and forth over and over. Just that's a real enemies to lovers story.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that would be cute.
Right. Except for, nope, they didn't want to do that.
Yeah. Didn't want a friend.
It's frustrating and interesting to see that kind of like resurge again. And I know that like, you know, the pendulum will swing back and forth over and over, right? Like everybody will, you know, the systems in power are trying to get everybody back into organized religion because it can be a source of maintaining power and control. Yep. Same as with the Salem witch trials. It's happening again and then we'll just, you know, we'll push it forward and it'll keep going back and forth. But it's really wild to see and hear about the kind of the historical groundwork that's laid there that makes those things possible.
Oh, hundo P. Anyways, getting back to Gigi.
Sorry.
That's okay.
That was my soapbox for the episode.
Great
Sorry for my commentary. On our audio podcast that is literally just an hour of commentary once a week.
Anyways, the repeal opened the door for Gardner to publicly promote Wicca without the fear of legal repercussions. And that same year, he co-founded the Museum of Witchcraft on the Isle of Man, which, you know, is, again, one of those things that's like, okay, positive for Gigi because it did preserve a lot of like folklore and, you know, practices. But
is it still there? Can we go? So, little peek behind the curtain.
Yes,
once upon a time.
No, it's temporarily closed.
Oh, when does it open again?
Oh, babe, hold on. Why do I keep calling you babe?
Not the babe. She just babed me on our podcast.
It's closed until April.
Okay. Once upon a time, like a travel company reached out to us and was like, why don't you put together a trip? And we were like, why the fuck would we, like, where would we go? What would we do? We go to the Isle of Man.
Where is the Isle of Man?
I could not tell you. I'm going to assume you're up.
It's a British Crown dependency in the Irish Sea.
Ooh.
Between Great Britain and Ireland.
Love that. We should all go.
The capital is a town called Douglas.
Wait, I want to go. I want to go to the Isle of Man and see the Museum of Witchcraft.
Could be fun.
Could be fun. Writer's retreat.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
I love something Molly and I do is we take a plan that's very like small and low key and then it really does spiral out of control. We've been talking about getting an Airbnb to like work from home together sometime this fall. And now it's like, no, we should go to Europe.
Well, originally it was Japan.
Originally it was Japan. So we've gone a little bit backwards, you know, in terms of like effort and expense, but the only way I could concentrate, the only way I could get anything done this year is if we were on the Isle of Man.
Yeah, agree.
Great.
So, 1951, Gardner goes public as a witch. He gives interviews. He publishes his book, like Witchcraft Today, 1954. And this brought this visibility to the craft that didn't exist before. And it really helped to reduce the social stigma around the term witch. At the time, the term witch was either considered like a negative or fictional. So it was basically like, you know, Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you're such a witch. But
yeah,
he really, like, by being so openly outward as a witch, started to, I think, like, from my research, really started to invite people into curiosity about witchcraft.
So interesting.
Yeah. And as he was creating Wicca in the 1950s, he really helped to reframe witchcraft from this feared taboo into this spiritual path centered on nature, ritual, and really honoring, you know, those things through different rites and rituals. He preserved and popularized practices such as casting a circle, calling in the cardinal elements, Book of Shadows, and working rituals by moon phases. He destigmatized the term witch. He founded the museum, which helped preserve folklore and artifact. He developed a ritual framework incorporating ceremonial magic, seasonal sabbats, and coven hierarchies, which then became the foundation for most forms of modern Wicca and many other neo-pagan paths. And his love of nudism, again, translated into the Wiccan concept of ritual nudity or becoming sky-clad, which some practitioners embrace as a symbol of freedom, vulnerability, and bodily acceptance. So he's not all bad.
Which, like, I don't know, it's like a hard thing to, I want to talk about the nudism thing, but I'm so scared you're going to say that he, like, was a creep and a pervert. I'm, like, waiting for it. And so what I want to say is, like, I don't, like, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No,
and
no.
I don't hate that. Like, I don't hate that as a part of magic, right? Like, I think that bodily acceptance is, like, a huge
Hundo P.
It was, like, so important. But I'm just waiting for you to be like, he told everybody to be naked because he is, like, a monster person, you know?
Well, we'll jump right to that. So a lot of the criticism came from his objectification of women in rituals.
Yeah.
So he would not only basically enforce this need to be nude, but he also believed that women's only power came from, like, fertility. So, you know, once she was old, it was basically said, like, you know, there was a quote unquote rule that you should step down from high priestess in honor of, like, a younger, more fertile woman.
Ew, which is so interesting when, like, all of these names of people who were critical of him or pushed back against him or really informed his work are fucking women. And so it's like, of course, because what it really is that they threaten your power.
Oh, trust me, we will get there. We just hold that nugget because I got a whole section in this outline about it.
Oh, I keep thinking as you are talking about, like, every time he either receives, because what you're describing, what was that woman's name his high priestess? Doreen. It sounds like what they had was, like, a true partnership, right? Like, someone who both supports and pushes you forward and tells you when you're wrong, right? Like, that sounds like a really collaborative, well-balanced relationship.
It sounds like it from what I've told you so far.
Of course. But, like, then you turn around and diminish a woman's power.
Oh.
It's just
Gigi
nasty.
did a lot of things when his power was questioned, and we will get into all of them. But other things that make him not so great is he pulled eclectically from a lot of different sources without clear attribution. So Crowley's work, Hinduism, Freemasonry, indigenous Southeast Asian beliefs, like, you name it. He helped frame witchcraft as an exclusively Western white and quote unquote claimed Wicca was an ancient tradition,
Mm-hmm.
which it's not. And he really, a lot of his work erased the broader spiritual lineages and excluded non-European practices or demonized non-European centric practices, which we'll talk about when we get to like the laws, the Wiccan laws. One of my favorite things I found in my research is a 1950s tabloid journalist accused Gigi of whitewashing witchcraft in order to lure people into his covens.
Which is wild for someone to say in the 50s.
The other thing he did was he painted witchcraft as all positive. It was all love and light. He really downplayed any mention of curses, harmful spells, or devil worship, which historically has been a part of some folk magic practices. And we see this still today. We see this like whitewashing of spirituality. And we also see this like, you know, high vibe culture, or like you have to practice all, you know, positive. You have to, your intentions have to be positive. You have to be, you know, happy. You have to be grateful for everything. Like this is still, you know, this bypassing is still really prevalent today in modern spirituality.
Yeah.
And we can see these roots in the way that Wicca was portrayed.
Mm-hmm. That's so, of course, the things that piss me off the most about modern witchcraft and spirituality come from just some fucking white man, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to talk about this in a little bit, but Gardner authored a set of internal laws for covens that included rigid rules about hierarchy, secrecy, obedience, and the treatment of initiates.
Okay.
They're very patriarchal and cult-like.
If ever a spiritual or religious system uses the word obedience, I am out. I am not a fucking dog.
Yeah, I'm out. And I also think like whenever there's a religion, practice, ritual, whatever it is that claims secrecy is of the essence, I'm also out. Because what I will tell you is secrecy is a pathway to abuse of power.
For sure.
Like, why else would you need to keep something so wholly secret? And then also the guy running it is the only one allowed to talk about it, and he talks about it publicly constantly. And if you say anything about that, you're out.
Yeah, and that's like, especially within the context of witchcraft, that is so insidious because there are practices that are like incredibly personal and private.
Sure. Private and secret are different.
Yes. And so to exploit that level of personal, you know, like that, what's the word I'm looking for? That level of personal sacredness.
Yeah.
And exploit it and say, oh, because of that, things actually have to be totally secret. And no matter what I do, you can't tell anybody because this is so sacred. It's just like so gross.
Yeah. Whenever I think about like this idea of secrecy in any sort of group, I always think back to my days as a consent educator where I would teach kids the difference between what's private, what's secret, and what's a surprise, right? Private is something that is for you, maybe your guardian, someone that like is a safe and comfortable adult for you, a friend, you know, things that you maybe wouldn't post on social media or share to everyone in the class, but like is not something that you'd get in trouble for sharing. A surprise is something that you can't tell about for a designated amount of time, like a party or a gift. And a secret is something you can never, ever tell. And those are really dangerous. Like we should not, like, the only people who want you to keep a secret is someone who's likely abusing their power.
Yeah. Unless it's like, I shit my pants last week and I have to tell someone.
Sure.
And you can never tell another person.
Sure.
You know?
But you know what I mean? Like the distinction. We're all adults here. We can tell the distinction. But it's like when there's rigid rules and there's secrecy around it, it's like,
yeah, it's weird. Like, oh, Gigi and I go do private ritual and he's allowed to talk about it, but I'm not.
Yeah.
That's gross.
The other thing that makes him kind of gross is he asserted male leadership and believed that / also preached in Wicca that power was passed from man to woman or woman to man. He was openly homophobic and claimed there are no homosexual witches. He thought it was deplorable to be homosexual, which thankfully I feel like modern witchcraft has really walked back. Yeah, but this was like... This was a huge part of like Wiccan culture.
Yeah, disappointed but not surprised there.
Totally.
Old man in the 50s is homophobic and misogynistic.
I'd like to give a quote.
I'm clutching my pearls.
I'd like to give a quote from the Book of Shadows that Gardner wrote. As a man loveth a woman by mastering her, so the Wicca should love the gods by being mastered by them.
It's so, and this is what I mean when I talk about people who especially like people who have recently deconstructed and left organized religion. I often see them come into spaces like Spellcrafter kind of seeking that same structure because that's what feels comfortable to them, you know?
Totally.
It is literally just copy paste of what people say about God. Like that, you could tell me that came from the Bible and I would be like, yeah, sounds about right.
The other thing that I think is a little odd, especially considering some other things we're going to talk about in the Wiccan laws, is he was a very big fan of scourging or whipping people to purify their energy and raise energy. So he would get people naked and then he would whip the shit out of them.
No.
In the name of purification.
Hate that. I don't like that. Isn't that like what... That sounds like what people describe when they went to Catholic school back in the day with like the nuns hitting their knuckles.
Yeah, totally. I'm like,
ew.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
As we talked about earlier, he falsely claimed academic credentials to gain legitimacy. He plagiarized or heavily borrowed from occult sources without credit. His personality was considered self-aggrandizing. And his writings have been...
I never would have guessed.
His writings have been critiqued for embellishment. It's one of those things where it's like, is it bad to be Wiccan? No. Is it important to understand the context of all the things in Wicca before you determine whether or not that's your path? Yes, absolutely. And we're going to talk about like the Wiccan laws next and how, these are pervasive in witchcraft, especially in online spaces right now, and no one understands, or very few people are talking about this context. And I really thought it was important to kind of go deep into all of this historical context so that we can talk about the Wiccan laws and like you can decide for yourself if they resonate for you or not.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like how I feel about kind of all organized religion, but like Christianity is what I come into contact with the most, right? Just because of where I live and all those things, whatever. Where it's I don't have any ill will towards people who are Christian, right? Or who believe in the Christian God. I believe that a lot of really wonderful people, I know a lot of really wonderful people who are devout Christians.
I think it's like what you do with it.
Exactly. Yeah. We can all recognize that those systems and structures have been used for harm.
Yes.
And that a lot of people benefit from those structures and use it to cause harm. Like going back to the secrecy, I follow a lot of people who have deconstructed from Mormonism, and the way they talk about like going into the temple is you cannot talk about it with anyone who has not been in the temple. And so when you're like taught that it's this beautiful sacred secret thing that you can't talk about and then you go through, there's this woman I follow who talks about like this feeling of like dread and fear and discomfort that she experienced there that she couldn't talk about because it's this secret thing that she was so afraid. It reminds me a lot of that. And so recognizing that religious structures have been used to abuse power does not negate that you can have a positive religious experience within those systems, you know?
Oh, totally.
Like, two things can be true, and I think that also applies to Wicca.
Yeah, 100%.
So we're not hating if you're Wiccan.
No, I just think it's important, like with any practice, understanding the why behind the what. will help you deepen your connection to both self, spirit, and whatever you're practicing.
100%, because then when you can kind of, even if the Christian God is your one and only God, when you can separate those systems that only exist to keep certain people in power, I believe you get closer to God.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Okay, you ready to talk about the Wiccan laws?
Yep, let's talk about them.
All right. We're going to talk about these in 3 sections. So there's 2 specific laws I want to talk about, and then we're going to talk about the Wiccan laws as a whole. So the first one, are you familiar with the Wiccan Rede?
I don't think so.
And it harms none, do what ye will.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So the inspiration for this one actually comes from a French novel from 1901.
Okay.
It's called Les Aventures du Roi Paul Sol. How'd I do?
I think you nailed it.
French listeners, let me know.
As someone who took French in college and got, I think, a C. Nailed it.
Okay. That was written by Pierre Louis, Louis. I'm sure our listeners in France are cringing.
Yep. Sorry. Love you. Don't be mad at us.
But what is written in this novel is do what you like as long as you harm none. And then Aleister Crowley said, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. So these are kind of like the 2 alleged inspirations behind the Rede. It's important to note that Gerald Gardner did not publish the Rede. Instead, he circulated it privately. So a lot of people believe that he wrote the Rede in one of his books. That was not the case. The first public appearance of the Rede was October 3rd, 1964, when the High Priestess Doreen Valiente coined the phrase, 8 words the Wiccan Rede fulfill, and it harm none, do what ye will. Love the rhyming. I will say, in true Gigi fashion, they used old language to make it sound archaic, but it was newly minted in the 1960s. So don't let the ye
classic.
Don't let the ye fool you. The belief is that it wasn't strictly a law, but instead designed to be advice, and is often interpreted as a general ethic of non-harm. But a lot of the criticism comes from the fact that there's this very vague in terms of interpretation, how you should interpret it. Should you take it literally? And in which case, if you do, then by following this Rede, you cannot, defend yourself or defend against injustices. Others critiqued that following the Rede is a privileged, and if someone is in a marginalized group, it's harder to stand up for your rights and stand up for and fight for justice because that causes harm. Other people say, like, you can't do anything without causing some form of harm because when you shower, you're killing microorganisms and, like, you're killing plants to eat and, like, should you be a vegetarian? Like, all of these things.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of the argument is around it's too vague or overly idealistic, especially around defining what harm means. And others say that it reflects this Western individualistic ethic that it really doesn't apply to other spiritual and magical traditions. Yeah. But I think in general, I'm not super mad about the Rede. I think see it as a guideline, not a commandment. I don't think we need to get into the weeds with the Rede, but wanted to name it because I do see discourse online where people are like, "Oh, if you hex, then like you're against Wicca. You're not a witch. Like witches don't curse," and that's just not the case. That's again, Gigi's form of witchcraft. Wicca is not the same as all witchcraft.
Yeah, I do feel like we've got bigger fish to fry here. I think that like everything is up to interpretation, right? Like I think it's a good principle to try to live by.
Yeah, I think a lot of the criticisms comes from the fact that it was used to diminish in other spiritual practices like voodoo or hoodoo or other non-white practices. Basically, is where we're going with this. As a way of like basically platforming Wicca as like the only path.
Which does definitely like feed into that love and light energy that we see today.
Hanopi.
But also like if you want to be a person that says, oh, in my practice, I want to do harm to none.
Great.
Great.
Yeah, I love that.
Good for you. sometimes I do want to harm to some. That's my philosophy.
Love that.
Harm to almost no one.
Yes.
Harm to a select few.
What I really want to get into is the Threefold Law, or sometimes called the Law of Return or the Rule of Three.
I really am excited to talk about this because I have I have a complicated relationship with it. And this is something I haven't told you before. So go ahead.
I'm curious how you're going to feel at the end of this. So I'm sure folks listening have vaguely heard of this law. It's essentially a moral principle in Wicca that says whatever energy or intent you send out, good or bad, will return to you 3 times over, or threefold. This law originally was to serve as karmic guidelines, so encouraging ethical behavior, basically saying that your actions have consequences, they're amplified in return. And it's often interpreted as like, if you do good, you'll receive good threefold. If you cause harm, harm will return to you threefold. So some people take this literally, as in literally you'll receive 3 times the exact energy as a result. So for example, if you donate $1, you'll get $3 back. Or if you hex someone, you'll get triple the backlash. Some people think this is more symbolic, so the number 3 representing spiritual amplification or a reminder of layered consequences like the mind, body, spirit. Mm-hmm. The number 3 in Wicca, in this Threefold Law, appears to be symbolic or rhetorical. It may be influenced by ceremonial magic, Christianity like the Holy Trinity, or Western esotericism. But in essence, it is based on the Western misunderstanding of karma. Now, I'd like to take us on a rabbit hole. I call this part of the outline karma, not just the guy on the Chiefs. I was really proud of that title, and no one else can see it, so I had to name it.
I'm proud of you for that one.
So just to kind of step us into this rabbit hole, my practice prior to being a witch, prior to doing any form of magic or any form of energy work, my first teacher in any form of mindfulness or spirituality trained under Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Buddhist monk, was a Buddhist monk, and a peace activist. And so a lot of my early teachings are influenced by Buddhism. And I, studied Buddhism for years. I don't know if I would consider myself a Buddhist, but I definitely subscribe to Buddhist philosophy. So I want to talk about karma specifically from the Buddhist perspective. So karma comes from the Sanskrit word meaning action or deed, and it's a foundational concept in a lot of different Eastern religions, each with their own nuanced interpretation. The theme with all of these Eastern religions and philosophies is that it is not a system of instant reward or punishment, as it is often portrayed in Western pop culture. It's more so about equilibrium. So in Buddhism, karma means intentional action, mental, verbal, or physical, that shapes future experience. So karma is created by intentional acts, not accidental behavior. Karma sets into motion consequences that may manifest in this life or future rebirths. And there's not fixed self-carrying karma, it's not, I'm me in a soul and I'm carrying the karma into the next life. It's just a stream of consciousness that is shaped by karmic causes. So it's like this sort of, all of us are unified, right? So it's not just me and my karma, it's I am a part of the whole. And so all of our karmas is a part of the whole, basically, is kind of how I would dilute it.
Okay.
Karma is also a natural law. It's not enforced by gods or spirits. And it influences samsara, which is the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. So in Buddhist karma, true spiritual progress involves letting go of attachment to outcomes, including the desire for good karma. The ultimate goal is nirvana, or freedom from karma altogether, not managing it like some sort of bank account. Mm-hmm. Some key distinctions from our Western misuse of karma is it's not about instant payback or you get what you give. It really emphasizes the internal transformation over external reward, and it focuses on intentionality and the cessation of suffering, not cosmic justice. And so when we think about the threefold law, it really treats consequences as dramatic and immediate, while karma works over lifetimes, shaping one's path through mental habits and existential conditioning, not by moral payback. The threefold law turns spiritual ethics into a transaction, while Eastern karma views ethical living as a means to transcend suffering and ego, not as a tool to secure positive returns, right? Like needing good karma is the opposite of nirvana, right? Like that is attachment.
Yeah, making choices with the expectation of receiving karmic payoff or
Yes.
karmic debt
Yeah.
is antithetical to how you're describing like
100%.
the goal of...
Yeah, like so much of the Buddhist practice is about non-attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we think of karma as like, I do this, I should get that, then that is our ego taking the center stage. And that is not like the point. In Eastern philosophy, karma is impersonal. It's not enforced by a deity or spiritual force. It arises naturally from one's actions and mental states. Whereas in the threefold law, it implies that something outside the self delivers outcome in proportion to the spell work. So this shifts karma from being self-generated and mind-based to being externalized and basically like something that happens to you, which misrepresents the original function.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk about the history of the threefold law. And now that we've come out of our rabbit hole about karma,
We've emerged back into the sun.
I was like, I had to go down the path because I just feel like that's usually people's, reasoning for believing in the threefold law is like karma. And sure, if you believe in the westernized idea of karma, but again, like, it's not the true meaning of karma. And you could look up any other Eastern religion, anything outside of Buddhism, if you could look up Hinduism and you would find similar themes to it. It's not like I didn't cherry pick Buddhism, to give this. But the earliest known mention of something resembling the threefold law comes from a piece of basically like Wiccan teaching called the Witch's Rede, which we have talked about. And then a clearer version appears in Raymond Buckland's books in the 1970s, where it's presented as a Wiccan doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
Lady Gwen Thompson's 1975 Read of the Wicca poem says, "Mind the threefold law, ye should, 3 times bad and 3 times good." So it basically became, that's why I wanted to talk about the Read first, is because the threefold law really came out of this like telephone effect of the Read itself. So it's like the Read, totally sure, like we could live by that. But then it became more dogmatic with the threefold law in the 70s. Some researchers speculate that Gardner may have privately taught ideas similar to the threefold law or karmic consequences, but there's no textual evidence of him formally articulating it as a quote-unquote law in his published works or the original Book of Shadows. But it was popularized in the 1970s through Wiccan literature like Raymond Buckland and Scott Cunningham's books.
Mm-hmm.
Who, we like Scott Cunningham, but like he doesn't always get it right either.
Yeah. So my relationship with the threefold law, I'm glad that you brought up Scott Cunningham because Linda was not Wiccan, but was took the threefold law very seriously in her personal practice.
Interesting.
And so, she was, like I've talked about, one of my most influential spiritual teachers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was someone in Linda's life who had done her really, really dirty.
Okay.
Like extremely dirty. And immediately I was like, okay, so when are we hexing? Like, what are we doing here? And she would not she would not put any negativity out towards this person because of her belief in the threefold law. And so I don't subscribe to it. I don't believe it, but I do see it as like how it was a positive for her because it was kind of like a way to rise above.
Sure. Yeah. I will say that there is some evidence that gets misconstrued as Gerald Gardner believing in the threefold law. And I'm going to tell you this evidence, and I think it's very interesting. Gerald Gardner wrote a fictional novel in 1949. This was pre-Wicca. or at least predating Wicca's public emergence. And the character is told, if you receive good, you are bound to return good threefold. And a lot of times people think like, oh, this is the origin of the threefold law. But if you read the context of the book, it's presented as an inside joke among witches rather than a religious dogma.
Oh, that's interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And so Raymond Buckland was really the catalyst to bringing Wicca to the U.S. And so the belief is that the threefold law was emphasized more in the U.S., perhaps to ease media scrutiny. Like, we're good. We're good people. We believe in this law, like that kind of thing.
And I kind of am in favor of anything that makes people do good things. Do you know what I mean? Like, in the same way, like when there's been a lot of discourse. This is going to be such a weird comparison, and for that I apologize. But there's been a lot of discourse about influencers doing the angel trees, right? Of like, oh, you're only doing this for attention. You're only doing this for attention. Like, you're only doing this because you want people to say that you're a good, nice person. And to that I say, great. I don't give a hoot.
Yeah.
As long as you are buying that kid an Xbox, I don't care what your reasoning is. And so if the threefold law keeps you being a nice person, I suppose that's okay. You know, if the only reason you're kind is because you think that you're going to get 3 times the kindness in return, that sucks. I don't want to be your friend, but I'm glad that you believe that, I guess.
However, the problem with that is that if you believe one side of the threefold law, you have to believe the other side. And so how it's actually being used is to prevent witches from addressing injustice and defending themselves when necessary. Oh, right? Yeah. Like, some people go as far to say, like, arguing that, like, if you do something like a freezer spell, which I see as like an energetic boundary, like an energetic protection, rather than like a baneful magic, then, you know, I'll get comments from people being like, that's going to come back to you threefold. And it's like, so I'm not allowed to set a boundary. I'm not allowed to protect myself. Like, what if I were being attacked in the street? I can't attack back because then I'll get it threefold. But also, okay, here's the soapbox I want to go on. As someone who worked with survivors of sexual violence for 9 years, I hate rules like this because it leads to victim blaming. Any sort of chronic condition, any sort of trauma, any sort of violence, we're already scrutinized. And then so now you add the spiritual law where it's like, well, what did you do to deserve it?
Yep.
What kind of karma did you do to deserve it? Which is just victim blaming and perpetuates a cycle of abuse, perpetuates a society of violence. Not a fan of it. So while we can say, yes, like, okay, if it helps you do good, great, do good. But like, it's the same as your thoughts create your reality. Right? If my thoughts create my reality for good, then they also become a tool for blaming me when shit goes sideways. When sometimes the reason bad things happen is because there are shitty people in the world. Yeah. And you know what? They're not getting threefold lawed. Yeah. Right? Like, look at our fucking president. Sorry to get political, but like, witchcraft is political. And witchcraft historically has always fought for social justice. Yeah. Right? Like, where's the threefold law? If I donate $1 million tomorrow that I don't have, I'm not going to literally get $3 million the next day. And so I think it's like, with all of these aspects of spirituality, there's nuance to it, but a lot of times people are just reiterating it as dogmatic, right? Like, you have to follow this. If you do that bad thing, you'll get it back 3 times. It'll be 3 times worse, which, like, is also fucked up, because it's like, why 3? Why 3? There's no why. Why not just 1 time? Yeah. I think it's like, it's the same way I feel about the read, right? Of that, like, I think that it's a tool that if you just use it as a guideline, right? As something to keep in mind, right? Of like, I want to receive the same kind of energy I put out, whatever. If that's your belief system, then that's great. But it's the same thing of, it can be used to perpetuate control. And so I think it's on like a personal level, right? Of like, do I believe that what I put out comes back to me? Great. But it is when it becomes that dogmatic thing of, and I think it's more so like an overarching problem of, we are all trying to convince each other that we're right.
and convince ourselves that we are the ones doing it the best way.
Yeah.
And that's where it becomes harmful, is where people have heard this law maybe from like not the best places.
Yeah.
Because I do have a lot of respect for the way that Linda used the threefold law, right? Like,
Sure.
she didn't want to put out, even to people who had done her harm, right? She didn't want to cause harm unto them.
Great.
But also, she wasn't telling me that I was a bad person when I wanted to, you know?
Right.
And I appreciated her outlook on it from the place of like, there were times that I had been done dirty, and maybe I like needed somebody to say, maybe now's not the time, you know? Because I'm not anti-baneful magic. That's like maybe my witchcraft hot take, is that like I think it has a place. But there are times when I do think that I've needed somebody to stop me and say like, hey, is this really worth it to you?
Yeah, totally.
And that is what I think the threefold law kind of served for her, rather than like a, no, you're doing it wrong, you're being bad, you're not a good person if you do this thing. And so it is like all things, you know, where it is same as, not to keep taking it back to Christianity, but it's like scripture can be used to empower and to disempower, and the same fucking verses can be used the same way.
Totally.
And I think it is just totally how you use it and how you interpret it. And I think that is like kind of a people problem. Like,
yeah, I think my beef with the threefold law, especially since, you know, our podcast, we get a lot of new witches. We get a lot of curious people who are dabbling into witchcraft, and there's a big fear around the threefold law.
Yeah.
There's a big fear of like, if I do a spell wrong, it's going to backfire.
And that is just like such bullshit.
Yeah,
in my
like,
opinion.
Spells don't backfire like that. First of all, let's put that fear out of your mind. But often it comes from the fact that they've heard of the threefold law, and they believe that like, okay, if I, you know, do this working wrong, it's going to backfire and it's going to cause harm to me and my family. Like I get DMs every week of people saying like, I did an abundance spell and my dog died. Did I cause my dog to die because I was greedy? And it's like, that's where this fear comes from. And I think it blocks people from like really feeling in control of their practice, which is ultimately what witchcraft is a practice of empowerment. And I think the threefold law disempowered us. Also, it doesn't make sense because Wicca lacks a deity who enforces judgment. So who or what enacts the return? Like,
I thought that Wicca was like Mother Earth, or like Gaia was at the center of Wicca.
I mean, it's a piece, like the earth is a piece of it, but it's not like they have a god or one god or whatever. It's like, you know, there's elements of nature, but there isn't like a quote unquote god who like decides if there's no Santa that's saying if you're naughty or nice, right? Like, and so I think while the threefold law, like I love how Linda's used it, I think ultimately it creates a lot of fear in beginners, and it creates a barrier from people being able to really explore witchcraft in a way that feels true and genuine to both themselves, but also the original intentions behind witchcraft.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that any of that is not true. No. I think I'm speaking more from the place of like, if it is a part of your practice that is not harmful to you or others, like you're not doing something wrong. I think it is like all things that can be used for good or for evil.
Yes.
And just historically it has been used to disempower. And that doesn't mean that it can't personally empower you, is I guess what I'm saying there. Because that's the reason that I don't subscribe to it, right? And I think the really important piece that comes into play specifically with that fear is that all spirituality, all religion is a system of beliefs that are all only true if you subscribe to them.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and so you can choose. I think that is like the most important piece here for new people who might be listening is you get to choose what systems of belief make it into your practice.
Yes.
And so if the threefold law elicits fear in you, unsubscribe, flick it off your fingers. It is no longer a part of your practice, and you get to make that decision. And that is what makes witchcraft different from religion, is that you get to create your own rule book.
Yes. And I think the threefold law, oftentimes, like when people are talking about it, they don't specifically say that it is a Wicca practice and it is not a witchcraft practice.
Yeah,
Again,
I think
from the top, we said Wicca is not all witchcraft. Not all witchcraft is Wicca. So you can unsubscribe from it and still be a witch.
Yeah, I think that is like the problem with so many things that we say about witchcraft, about Wicca, about spirituality in general, is like if you say anything as if it is a universal truth, you are lying.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is from Bernie Clark. He says, always is always wrong and never is never right. I use that all the time.
It is not helpful to anyone to just say these things as if they are laws of the universe.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because again, Linda was one of my greatest teachers, is still one of my greatest teachers. Anthony, one of my greatest teachers, like all of my teachers. I have things that they subscribe to that I disagree with.
Yes.
And some of them are small things. Like Anthony is a person who says like he'll never blow out a candle. He will always stuff it.
Okay.
And that's like a part of his practice. That's a part of his belief system. I would never blow out his candle, but when he sees me blow out mine, he's like, oh, you stressed me out. But like, whatever, we just go on. It's not like a thing. And it's because we have all written our own rule books.
Yes.
And what's important is like, as you're seeking those teachers, either online or in real life spaces, not aligning yourself with people who teach you their way as if it is the universal truth. And there is no other way to listen or be or experience your practice.
Discernment.
That's the piece. Discernment, for sure. Because Linda knew that I didn't believe in the threefold law, but she would still say it to me. You know, when I said, if, you know, whatever, even when I talk about doing something, you know, positive, right? Like whatever you put out comes back 3 times. And so she would be like a good on you, whatever. But if I said, okay, well, I know that you believe that, but I'm going to go in this different direction, it was not a, well, you're doing it wrong and I'm mad at you. And that's when it becomes a problem.
Totally. Speaking of writing our own rule book, do you want to hear about the one Gardner wrote?
You know, there's nothing I want more than to hear more rules that we're not going to like.
So this is Gardner's Wiccan laws, or sometimes called the old laws, which is hilarious, or the Ardanes. We're going to refer to it as the Ardanes. Sometimes also referred to as the 161 laws. So
that's a lot.
We're not going through each of them. No, God, no.
Thank God.
No, we're just going to talk about where they came from.
We can all do that on our own time.
Yes, you're welcome to Google it if you still care after this.
I think I do. I think I want to read them all.
These were found in early versions of the Book of Shadows. They were presented as ancient, but in reality, they were written by Gardner himself in the 1950s. And we're going to talk about why.
I am a little bit obsessed with this man's audacity.
I know.
Like, and his ability to lie and not care. Like,
yes,
he really did. That's a fucking go-getter if I've ever seen one.
I know. So the Ardanes cover coven structure, initiation protocol, secrecy, obedience, conduct, punishment, and even rules about gender roles and relationships within the covens. They
Don't like that.
Yeah.
Rules about relationships in the coven. Don't like that. He really is giving cult.
I know. They mandate strict loyalty to the high priestess and high priest, enforce secrecy about the craft, and limit autonomy of individual witches. I want you to hold that nugget there. Just hold on to that right now. And some laws include punitive language like those who disobey shall be scourged, and suggest that witches who reveal secrets may be cursed or banished. Suggest that witches who reveal secrets shall be cursed or banished. Just hold on to that.
This sounds like my college
second.
sorority.
I know. Hold on to that for a nugget. So,
which, if you ever meet me in real life and you want me to tell you all my sorority secrets, I'll do it.
Same.
I teach the handshake to everyone I meet.
There's a handshake?
Oh, yeah. We have a secret handshake.
Okay, cool.
Next time I see you, I'll teach it to you.
All right. I want to tell you the historical context. So hold those nuggets just for right now. And
I'm holding. I have my hands out.
So we can giggle about it in a moment. So these laws were revealed in 1957, conveniently right around the time a dispute had arisen in the coven over Gigi's habit of giving press interviews despite the traditional oath of secrecy.
Of course, of course, of course.
The laws seemingly forbade members from defying the person in power, aka himself. They reflect his desire to centralize control, especially as Wicca began to attract new practitioners. And he often used these laws to justify or consolidate his authority, especially in conflicts or when his leadership was questioned. Valiente, Doreen, criticized them as nonsense and saw them as a retroactive attempt by Gardner to enforce hierarchical control under the guise of ancient tradition. So he presented these as ancient lore, even using archaic language to make them sound legit. He lifted phrases from Gardner's own books when writing this ancient lore and Crowley's writing, and even claimed in them, if you were to read them, there are claims that witches would be burned as a consequence for breaking these laws. Even though witches were not burned, they were hanged.
That sounds like a threat.
He tried to pass this shit off as old-timey laws that he just discovered in the midst of this overthrow of his power. They were trying to coup, and he was just like, oh, don't forget about the 161 laws. You don't know the 161 laws? Let me tell you, you have to subject to the chief.
It's almost impressive, the level of, like, con artistry.
Dude,
And it does sound so cult-like in a way that is so...
100%.
interesting and also stressful.
I know. So in 1979, when Wicca came to the U.S., by the way, 1979 was when Wicca came to the U.S., 46, almost 47 years ago. Not that long ago.
Wild.
They produced a heavily revised set of laws, but there's no historic evidence that these laws existed before Gardner.
Yeah.
The archaic language was likely styled to lend false antiquity, as he has been known to do.
It's like when a tourist trap is called, like, Ye Olde Store.
Yeah.
He fucking Ye Olde stored it.
Yeah. So he claims that these laws, he presented them to preserve ancient lore, but that was not the case. Most modern Wiccans don't follow the Ardanes. Even during Gardner's time, like, this is what caused Valiente to leave the coven. So Doreen was just like, fuck this guy, I'm out.
I hope Doreen had a very long and happy life, and I hope the Threefold Law came to her. I hope she got 10 times all the good.
Yeah, many covens still view them as too authoritarian. A lot of contemporary witches reject them because they're super gendered in their power structure, their secrecy rules, and their control-oriented tone. And they were not legitimate at all. Like, They were literally just one man trying to hang on to a shred of power. But I like to bring them up because, you know, it's important. If we believe in the Threefold Law, but not the Ardanes, what does that mean? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that mean? And I think, as always, like, discernment.
Always.
So that is my story of Gardner. He's a complicated figure. We got to give him credit for kickstarting modern witchcraft, but he was a white man in truest form, had some nudist fetishism and a desire to control the narrative, totally discluded queer practitioners, whitewashed, so many practices, erased so many aspects of different cultures in creating this practice. And also, like, Wicca is a profound belief system for many modern witches today. So it's like we can hold both. We can hold that Gigi was a complicated man, and also how the practices live on do support people in some way, shape, or form.
Well, and it's not even that he, like, erased. It was, like, complete. That would imply that they were ever there in the practice to begin with. Like, he completely disregarded where he was taking these things from.
Oh, totally.
He's giving, I can't remember the real person, but have you ever seen Catch Me If You Can?
Probably years ago.
He's giving Leonardo DiCaprio in Catch Me If You Can. It's like just a movie about a con man.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The guy who just walked into an airport one day and said he was a pilot, and then he was a pilot for a long time.
Oh my God.
It's a real guy. It's a wild story. It's
Sounds
a really
like
good movie. You should watch it.
Yeah.
Great movie. Highly recommend.
Speaking of complicated figures, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Seriously, he should play Gerald Gardner.
Yeah.
There should
Give
be a
him
Catch
40
Me If You Can
years.
style movie where Leonardo DiCaprio reprises his role from Catch Me If You Can, but it's actually Gerald Gardner.
Somebody
I'm
call
pitching
Hollywood.
I'm pitching it to the movie studios as we speak. I've got Hollywood on the line. Hello, Mr. Hollywood? No, not Paul.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things about the difference between Gardner's version of Wicca and Wicca today is his version of witchcraft was very performative, right? It sold well in the post-war Britain and that wanted mystery and rebellion, but today's witchcraft is so much more about like healing and justice and community. And so I think that's where we stray from Gardner's like as the person and sort of like take what resonates from what he's brought, like how we talked about in the Sabbats. Like the Sabbats were a creation of Gardner's, you know, philosophy and of Wicca. And so does that mean we can't celebrate, you know, in bulk? Does that mean we can't, you know, live by the wheel of the year? No, it just means that like, you know, understanding the history of those practices and finding and tracing the lineages back and finding where things come from becomes that much more important when we're doing these practices, and especially, you know, when we're doing these practices publicly, you know, whether it's online or if you have a podcast or if you have an Instagram or a TikTok or whatever, like instead of presenting Gardner's ideas as factual and dogmatic, how can we add some nuance into the conversation so that, you know, we don't end up almost like perpetuating these same issues in modern day, you know?
Absolutely. I just think it's so important to know where the belief come from.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously, like we've talked a lot about how I celebrate the Wheel of the Year, recognizing it as not, knowing that it is not what it has been portrayed to be.
Yeah.
Gave me full permission to celebrate each season however the fuck I want to.
Yeah.
Because it's really become now a call to me to recognize the changing of the earth as we move through the year, rather than like this ancient holiday that I must participate in this very specific way. And as someone like living, we talked a lot in our Sabbath series how living in Florida have a really hard time connecting to the earth. And I think that I would have been a lot harder on myself if I believed that these ancient practices really needed to be participated in this very specific way for them to be correct. And so knowing that it's just a thing that was made up by some asshole who was obsessed with making other people be naked and feeling really important and like feeling good about himself gave me a lot of freedom to just say, oh, this is just a call in to check in and be present.
Yeah.
And I can't do anything wrong because you know what? New philosophy, live each day with the audacity of Gerald Gardner. You know?
Yeah.
Just know that if he could make up all of that bullshit for Wicca, you can make your own book of shadows and your own list of laws, you know, and you can live by them however you damn well please.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think it's a common, you know, take what resonates, leave the rest. Also remember that like you don't have to be Wiccan to be a witch, and not everything about witchcraft is Wiccan.
Yeah.
And so you're allowed to subscribe to any part of this information that resonates with you, that lights you up, that makes you feel more in alignment with your true intention for practicing. And you're also allowed to unsubscribe from anything that makes you feel like shit or less than, or, you know, disconnected from yourself and your practice.
Yeah.
And I think that's like ultimately the path of witchcraft and the path of the witch, is like honing that discernment, you know, over and over and over again. And ultimately like releasing that need to be right, releasing that external reward of like, oh, I'm a good witch or I'm a good Wiccan, and instead focusing on that intentionality and the cessation of suffering, as is true karma.
Yeah, I think that's why we both find it so important to have these conversations about those topics that might be a little bit more nuanced, because the more I participate in like online witchcraft spaces, the more I see that level of dogma repeated by other people, almost always other white people who, you know, and I've really been having a lot of conversations about community with the people that I love and know and work with the most in my practice. And I don't know that the internet, this is rich coming from someone with a podcast, but I don't know that the internet is always a great place for that level of nuance and conversation, because we are all like, we see people who are trying so hard to be right, and then it hits our ego, so then we have to be right, and then we're just all fighting, and it is so frustrating to watch and see.
Yeah. I mean, yes, on one hand, I agree, but on the other hand, like, this episode wouldn't exist without the internet.
Of course.
Because if I had just read Gerald Gardner's books and, you know, firsthand perspectives of people of the time, I would have given a very different account of all of these aspects. And so I think there's some beautiful aspects to, you know, witch talk or whatever being so widespread on the internet. But one of the things that I have been actively doing is when I see something witchy come across my feed and it is clearly viral, and there's some sort of like, you know, dogma, even if they don't say like you have to do this, but if it's like a rule or a law or like don't forget to do this or whatever, I just ask myself, why is this viral? And I will tell you, dogma goes viral because it stirs controversy. And so if you're seeing a lot of videos that say threefold law, threefold law, threefold law, look at the comments, look at the conversation that's happening. There's either fear stirring up, there's discontent stirring up, there's people disagreeing, there's people agreeing, there's people fighting in the comments. That's what algorithms click on and send to you. And so I have been starting to diversify my feed and try to follow more witches that are not viral. And watching content that is not, you know, exploding in the algorithm. And I feel like that the nuance is often not the things that are the first thing on our algorithm.
And that's more so what I mean is like, if you take your algorithm's word for it too, because that is what goes viral. And that I think that's more so like being present in the conversation is the most important piece, because if you're only watching what comes across your feed, you're only seeing the things that cater to the algorithm, and that is often the things that stir controversy. And that's when I end up talking to people in the store, undoing a lot of that dogma. And that's where I begin to grow frustrated. And so I think that's like the important piece too, is like having conversations with real people in real life as well about why they believe what they believe.
And also doing a gut check, right? Like if someone tells you something is truth and you're like, that doesn't sit right with me, trust that feeling, like explore that feeling with curiosity. And let that lead you. And it might turn out that like you end up agreeing, maybe, but I think following that instinct is how you practice discernment in spiritual spaces.
Hundo P. Do we do it?
Yay!
Jinx. Yay! If you liked this long-ass research-filled episode, let us know in the comments, and maybe we'll take on Aleister Crowley next. Or if there's someone that you really want to hear us talk about from Witches Past, we would love to do a deep dive. We would love to learn more. This is kind of our favorite thing to do, is to just learn and talk. And so
I'd love to deep dive Scott Cunningham, because like, I really like his books, but I don't know a thing about that man.
We have a biography of him that I've been meaning to read. So maybe we can do that
book
one
club?
of these days. Let's book club it. Let's do it. Okay.
Love you.
We will see you next time. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Demystify Magic with Molly and Madison. All our links, from spells to ceremonies to ways to support us, are waiting in the show notes.
We'd love to hear your magic moment of the week. Share it in a review, tag us on socials, or bring it to our Patreon clubhouse at demystifymagic.com.
And remember, you are the magic.
Okay, love you.
Bye.